Hey guys, Mike Teaches Programming here, and today we're going to look at Dockerizing our Spring Boot applications. So let's get right into it. Today's video is going to be quick, it's going to be easy to follow, and it's going to be pretty simple in terms of Docker. It just gives you an idea of how to build your first Docker image. Okay, so let's get started. What I've really done here is just created a simple new Spring Boot project. There's nothing in here at the minute. I use Spring Initializer, and all I've just given it is the web dependency. We don't really need the test, but that's all that I have done. So let's go and create a controller. So before we do that, what we're going to be creating is, let's say, I always go with a library application, okay? So I'm going to have one get endpoint, and it's going to return a list of books, all of the books in the library. So let's make a new package and call it controller. And inside controller, we'll create a new Java class called library controller. Okay, so let's mark it as a REST controller, and also the request mapping, the value is going to be library. So I'm not going to go too much into these annotations and what they do, but basically this marks this class as a REST controller, so we can hit it, marks it as an endpoint, and the request mapping basically says prefix all of our requests with /library. So let's create one get endpoint. So we create get mapping. The value is going to be books. Okay, and it's going to produce, and it's going to be media type. Media type dot application JSON value. Okay, and then we just need to define our method. So it's going to be public response entity, and it's going to take a list of books, and it is going to be get all books. Okay, so here we go. What I need to do now is create a new book class. So ideally put this into a new model package, but for now, just for simplicity, let's do this. And we're going to make a private string name and have our getters and setters. As always, generate getters and setters, and okay. So I'm pretty much flying through this because I don't want it to be that long. And what we're going to do is we're going to import our list class. So then let's have a new book. Let's create one book. Book is equal to new book, and the book dot set name, and we'll call it my book, and then we will return a new response entity, and it is going to be arrays dot as list, and we will add book to it. And then here it's going to be HTTP status, HTTP status dot okay. So basically what we've done here is we have created, I know that was quick, but let's just explain what I've done. I've created one get endpoint, so it's /library /books, and what it's going to do is return this one book. But because I've marked it as list book here, that's why I've used arrays dot as list down here. So it's saying I can improve this singleton list. That's fine, I can do that either. Okay, so let's run this. So to run it, all you pretty much need to do is go to your team's project application, and let's run. So you can see here, to test this, what you can do is you can actually go to any web browser, and we can go to localhost 8080 /library /books. You can see here it's not found, but it's because I named it books, and you can see here we have got name my book. Okay, so that's fine, that's running it through this, but that's not what we're here for. Now let's change this into a Docker application. So the first thing we need to do here is to actually build a jar file out of this Spring Boot application. Let's go ahead and do that. What I like to do is, if you go into our POM file, click into builds and click final name, and what I'm going to do is name it library service. So you can final name, yep. So I'll show you where this is used. So I'm using Maven, so let's go into Maven, and we want to clean install. Okay, so you can do this in a terminal at the project level. Just type in mvn space clean space install, and what that is gonna do is create this target folder. Inside here you can now see this jar file. So you can see here in my POM, I clicked final name service or library service, and that is pretty much the name of our jar file. So why do we need this jar file? Well, we need it for our Docker file. So the first thing you want to do is install Docker. Okay, so I'll leave some links as to how to install Docker. And once you have Docker installed, you should just be able to type Docker in terminal and get a list of commands. But the first thing we need to do is to Dockerize our project. So we need to create a file, and it's just called Docker file. And that is the first thing we're going to do. So let's build our Docker file. All Docker files will start with from. So it's from, and I'm going to copy in this line. So this from is your base or your parent image. Now, because we're using a Java jar file, we need our Docker container to have OpenJDK on it so we can run our jar file. The next thing we need to do is type add, and what we need to do is add from our target folder our library service.jar to /app on the Docker container. So again, from taking the parent image, Java, this is defined on the Docker Hub. It's kind of like GitHub, but just for Docker images. And then our next command is add, and it takes two parameters, first one and second. So we take this library service from here and add it to app on our Docker container or our Docker image. Then we're going to run the following command. So whenever the container spins up, it's going to run this command. I'm just going to copy it. It's just going to run Java, and it's basically just going to run the jar file. So you can see here, I copied it. So just change it to libraryservice.jar, and that is our third kind of parameter. And then we need to expose. And what we're going to do here is expose the port, so we can hit our application from the outside. So we expose 8080 on our Docker container, and that is pretty much it. Now what we need to do is build a Docker image from this, and to do that we type in docker build -t. So -t stands for name. What do we want to call this? So I think I already have a library image, so what I'm going to do is call it library-test space dot. So the dot meaning in this directory, look for the Docker file. So you can see when I press enter, there's 4 steps. It goes and builds the Docker images, and you can see step 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so step 1 from this image. So because I've already downloaded it, it's kind of quick. And then it adds our library service jar from here, puts it into our Docker image. Step 3, run this command. Step 4, expose port 8080. Okay, so there's no container run at the minute. So if I type in Docker images, it gives me a list of all of my images. You can see I have library test, the one we just created. It says 2 days ago, but it is today. I don't know why it says 2 days ago. I'm not too sure. I'll get back to it. So let's keep going. Now, to see all of our containers that are actively running, just type in that command. So we have no containers running. So what we need to do to run this image is type in the following. Type in docker run port 8080 8080, and then the name of the image. Okay, and then just click enter, and you can see here that it's an unsupported class version. A more recent version, this version up to 52. So I think that's because in our POM file, what have I done? I've put the Java version to 11. So let's click on 8. So what you could do is the base image, put an 11 here. But what I'm going to do just for my sake is to change the version back down to Java 8. So what I'm going to do is rebuild the Libraryservice.jar. So these things will happen. Something will go wrong when you're building, and it's nice to see. So I've rebuilt the jar file. So let's go back into our terminal and let's rebuild. Let's go to Docker images, and we're going to go Docker RMI. So RMI will remove the image, and we can type out the name, Docker for library test. So it says now that there's a container running. So Docker PS, Docker PS. Docker PS minus A. So you can see here that this container is running based on our image. So we couldn't delete the image because we tried to run a container and that's up. So we need to get rid of that container. So type in Docker or M, and then just type in the first two digits of the container ID. Let's do that. That's deleted. So let's go into our Docker images. Now let's remove our library test. And that removes our library test. Now let's rebuild our image. So again, Docker build -t for the name, library test, and period for this location. So you see 4 steps run again, and then to rerun it, Docker run exposure port library test. So this port means map our external port to the internal port that we've exposed on the Docker image. So give that a run, and you can see here now that it's started. So if we take our Chrome back again, so you can go use Chrome or whatever you like to test your REST APIs, like localhost port 8080 /library/books, and you can see here name my book. So that's pretty much it. Simple Docker image. I like leaving all of the stuff in that goes wrong. It shows you how to debug, and it gives you different commands to use, like removing images and containers, and so that's why I kind of left that in there. So hopefully you enjoyed, and maybe we can go into more detail the next time. Thanks for listening.